What's up guys? Thanks for hitting play and thanks for joining me in the garage today. I'm sitting here with our 2021 Yamaha YXZ1000R SS SE and I'm here to give you the UTV Source Break-In Period review on this thing.
Right now. Tell me who you are, get in the car. Right now.
Now, this isn't the first video you've seen on this car. Our first video was actually the review and ride. We took this thing straight from the showroom floor on out to Johnson Valley. We talked about the OE provided specs. We went and drove it around, kind of gave you a seat of the pants feel, but more or less just a very informative video on what the YXZ does stock. Well, that was all fun and games and a good old time. And then we dropped the car off with Rick. That's the handoff video if you go back and check out our YouTube page. We had a lot of fun. I kind of told Rick what I thought about the car. We put Rick in the seat, let him drive it around, and at the end of that video, we more or less came up with a game plan on how we we're gonna build this thing. Now, if you follow UTV Source, not just on YouTube, but Instagram, you know the magic of these builds happens on the gram, in the stories. Well, Rick went to work, he welded up the LSK, welded yourself cage kit, he threw on this Avid suspension kit, and all the other goodies on this car. That landed us at video number 3, our UTV Source build walkaround. Go check that one out. It's a lot of fun with this YXZ. We had a good time. Rick goes really in depth on all the parts we put on this car. So that's not what this video is about. What is the UTV Source Break-In Period review? Well, it's our attempt to kind of go back and give you some of the insights that we did on the review and ride, but more from an enthusiast point of view after the fact, after we've logged 24 hours or more on the car, in the car, on the engine meter, effectively spent a day in this thing between stock, built trim, and just want to give you guys some insight on what we think about the YXZ after it's been built, after we've taken it to some different events and different terrains and really had a good time with it. So, without further ado, let me jump right into that.
We came to get wild and get buck. Came to rock the house and get drunk. From the floor to the ceiling, go nuts. Any sign of destruction's on us. My adrenaline's pumping, feel it all in my veins. Don't worry, percussions, then stay out the way. Like a lineman rushing to take them out of the game. Got the party jumping and tearing out of the frame. I'm talking mosh pit, jumping, party not stopping. Hang from the ceiling, that's how we on it. If you're not fit, here's a warning, yo, stand up.
So we picked up this car from our buddies at Honda Yamaha Redlands and we took it straight up to Johnson Valley for some good old-fashioned testing. And again, you can go watch the review and ride video and get all the specs and everything I talked about in that video, but I'm gonna keep it on track to give you our break-in period enthusiast review. And I'll try to do it in 3s, because 3s are easy to consume. So things this car did well in stock trim, well, it's extremely fun to drive. It's a 5-speed sequential. This is the SS, so it's got the paddle shifters. There is no third pedal and there's no shifter on the column. It's just full on WRC rally car mode and it gets with it. You click that paddle and bang, it's in gear. So the driving experience is next level. Yes, it's got less horsepower, it's got less suspension travel, it's A-arm front and rear compared to trailing arms like most of your other high performance cars on the market. Doesn't matter. Get in one of these things and drive it. Bang gear, slide through the corners, you're gonna have a smile on your face. Now, the next thing it did well, that shorter track width and shorter wheelbase actually kind of played into, you know, a lot of the fun of the car. So it's nimble, extremely nimble, flickable. You could eye up a corner and just flick this car and stay on the gas and it would do it. And being able to kind of pick what gear you're in, again, just totally changes the driving experience. The third thing this car does very well is lets you see out of it. It's got tons of visibility compared to some other cars where you can't see over the hood or can't see around you when you're all in. I mean, look at this thing. You can peek out the driver's side and see where your tire is. You can see over the front, so if you're coming down a hill, you can see all the obstacles. So Those are the three things the car does very well stock. Now, it's easy to talk about things the car doesn't do very well stock. Limited travel. I think it's 16 inches up front and 18. Again, don't quote me, go watch the review and ride. But it's got significantly less travel than your other cars in the market. The next thing that it didn't do very well was make you feel comfortable. The seats, I think Rick refers to them as Marge Simpson seats, but they are tall, they're blue, they're skinny. Coupled with a 3-point automotive style seatbelt, it's just not very fun. It's not very confidence inspiring. Number 3 on the list of things this car didn't do very well is low ground clearance. It's super low. So being out in Johnson Valley, home of King of the Hammers, there's a lot of rocks. And in stock trim, you know, I was gliding over a lot of those things and just smacking rocks left and right. So there's your 3 pluses, your 3 minuses. So let's keep this rolling along.
Give me a second, I'm trying to select the appropriate weapon. Watch where you stepping, them snakes all around, you know they connected. When I was a kid, my grandmama told me I can't go to heaven, so I stopped praying and asking for blessings and started preparing for my Armageddon. So don't come up missing.
Alrighty, so after we drove the car stock, we came up with a build plan for this thing, and Rick went after it. First thing we did is address the suspension. We reached out to George and his team at Avid UTV and are rocking their 64-inch cross-country kit. It's a super nice kit. It's a J-arm setup, so it moves that lower shock mount to the lower arm rather than the upper. Gives you much more a one-to-one feel off-road. You can really kind of feel what the car is doing. The way the arms are designed, they're very high clearance, so we're kind of solving that problem of ground clearance a little bit. And just very, very beefy components, all uniball stuff. So, as it wears and we drive this car more and more and more, it's easy to replace, easy to keep maintained, all that good stuff. Race quality parts, race quality products. Good job, Avid. So the next weak link after that was tie rods. The stock tie rods on the YXZ are fairly weak. The inners like to bend, the outers like to snap, sometimes if you hit something hard enough. So we went with an Assault heavy duty tie rod upgrade, and it went in easy, looks great. Good job, Assault. Next thing we did was take the car over to our buddies at iBox Suspension. Put a dual rate spring kit on this thing, which kind of optimizes the spring rate for most of your common aftermarket accessories. It was good out of the box, but I'll tell you, once we started playing with high and low speed compression, and especially rebound, that's when the car started to come alive and started to work really well. So that leads me into the next thing, wheels and tires. We obviously had a ground clearance issue, so we went with a bigger tire. We went with a 30-inch EFX tire gripper RT. We wrapped that tire around a 14-inch KMC Grenade beadlock. We went with the 4+3 offset in that wheel. We wanted to mimic a wider stance without being overly aggressive or anything like that. And the look, the performance, the way it handles is excellent. Super happy with that choice. Some of the other cars out there, we would recommend maybe a 5+1 or something like that, something that kind of keeps the scrub radius down low, but this 4+3 worked very well with the combination of parts we put on the car. After we got suspension, wheel, tire, steering, all that good stuff, we had to go to safety. So Rick pulled that stock cage off. We reached out to LSK Suspension. They sent us a weld-it-yourself kit. Rick got down and dirty, burned that thing up. The cage looks excellent. It fits together very nice. It was very easy to weld up with somebody with basic welding skills. Obviously with a buddy helps out, but go check out Rick's videos on that. You can see for yourself. Going into the cab of the car, we went with Simpson Vortex 2 seats. We did them in a black and blue setup to kind of match the Yamaha vibe. We paired those with the Simpson 3-inch latch and link harnesses, and it is night and day difference compared to those stock seats and stock harnesses. So nice to be able to drive this car aggressively and feel confident, not be bouncing around, and just focus on driving. So very cool setup. And after seats, harnesses, cage, safety, suspension, all that good stuff, we got into the little knickknacks. We put some Assault mirrors on this thing, threw some Baja Designs lighting on it. Of course, we did a fire extinguisher. Rick will tell you all the time, if you're that guy that has it and doesn't need it, you're probably gonna save the other guy who doesn't have it but needs it. You know what I'm saying? So fire extinguisher on your car, please keep yourself safe, keep your buddies safe, all that good stuff. We highly recommend it. And last but not least, after we got the car pretty much suited, well, this car likes to be up at 10,000 RPM. That's one of the great things about the YXZ is it just screams, it rips. So stock exhaust, it wasn't very exciting. I mean, it was still cool when you're in the car, but outside the car, it didn't sound like much. So we reached out to Trinity. We got a stage 5 exhaust kit, full exhaust kit, header, muffler, all that good stuff for this car. Put it on, it looks beautiful, it sounds amazing. And that really finished off the car for us, kind of. So once we had the build pretty much wrapped up, we took this car over to our buddies at 518 Designs and they laid down a sick vinyl job on this car. It looks fast when it's sitting still. They've got sharp edges and tears and all sorts of cool stuff. It's got blues, it's got purples, whites. It's got like an OE-ish look. Great job to the team at 518 Designs. And that's as far as I'm gonna get on the build. If you really wanna see it, go check out the UTV Source build walkaround. So once the laundry list of parts got bolted on this thing, 518 did their magic. It's looking great. The car and the keys came back to me, and you know exactly what I did. I went right back out to KOH to the same terrain, the same trails for a proper back-to-back comparison. In my opinion, how else do you know if you went forward or backwards than taking it to the same place? So right off the trailer, onto the lake bed, straight into launch control mode, let this thing scream at 10,000 RPM and let that Trinity just do its job. Such a beautiful sound. This inline triple just revving at 10,000 RPM or anywhere around there, it sounds amazing. And Trinity does a hell of a job of making that even better. So flat ground, obviously it did great. Once we started getting in the whoops, that's where everything that we put on this car started, kind of coming to life. The suspension did well. It felt very controlled, very planted. The improvements we made to safety and comfort is really what I noticed. The stock trim, the stock seats and seat belts, I was trying to just stay in the seat, trying to maintain like 55 through some whoop sections. And now when we're in proper seats and we're cinched in and we've got a good cage around us and everything feels as it should, I was able to keep my foot to the floor and maintain speeds, in the low to mid 70s through those same whoops. So considerable improvements there in comfort and confidence. And then once we got out into some corners, some sand dunes, things like that, that's where the wheels, the tires, the spring kit, everything started doing work, and it was just an absolute blast. I think we were, railing berms. I think we even got some jumps in the first time we took it out, being, in built trim. So that was very cool. So proper testing out of Johnson Valley. We were very excited about it. Took the car back home. A couple weeks later, we were out in Sand Hollow, Utah for UTV Takeover. Now, we know better than to bring a knife to a gunfight, so we didn't take the YXZ out in the gnarly rock trails of Sand Hollow. We kept it in the more mellow sand dune area, kind of that stuff where we know this is gonna shine, but we did toss the keys to Darren Parsons, and he's a professional driver. The guy's got a pretty good background of, racing and performance driving, if you will. And we asked him to just rip a couple corners for a couple photos, and dude wound up running the Sand Hollow 500. We couldn't get him out of this thing, which is a pretty good indicator that we had made some proper improvements to the YXZ. I know Darren comes from a motocross background, familiar with dirt bikes, and that's really where I think the YXZ kind of shines. If that's your style of riding, you like to be aggressive and be in control of the power delivery, the YXZ gives you that experience where I haven't really felt that in other UTVs the same way. So anyway, out to Sand Hollow, Darren drove this thing, had a good time. Again, car came back. Once I got the car back, I really wanted to put it to the test. I feel like, again, being able to shift gears and kind of control the power delivery, I wanted to see how this thing did on a motocross track. So we went to our friends at Lake Elsinore Motocross Park. Luckily, they let us rip one of the tracks. Our experience there that UTVs do very well on the vet track, which is a lot of tables and more mellow obstacles. Well, they were grooming it, so they said, hey, go rip the pro track. And as nervous as I was, I found a couple jumps and a couple corners that the YXZ just shined on, and I mean, you could check it out.
Hey, let's go. We at our prime. Hey, hey, we at our prime. Yeah, I'm at my prime. Hey, hey, I'm at my prime. Whoa, said I'm at my prime.
She did pretty good. A couple adjustments to the shock, slowing down some rebound and trying to take some buck out of the rear, and we were flying. So good times. I mean, again, open desert, wide open desert and trails, out in the sand at Sand Hollow, then straight to a motocross park. This car really never skipped a beat outside of just some minor suspension changes. So we're very, very happy with it. We made the right improvements to this car. You know, another part of these videos, something we want to talk about is maintenance, service, things like that. I actually did get one oil change on this car. It was very simple. It's a dry sump setup. So you empty the dry sump tank, you empty what little oil is actually in the crankcase, you fill it right back up. It's easy to access. You can get to it all through the plastic skid plate on this vehicle, and it's not too much of a mess. It's all really easy and right there to get to. So service-wise, we're gonna say it's very easy to service and maintain. Typical Yamaha build quality. So now that everything's said and done, it's time for the point of the UTV Source Break-In Period review, and that is the hot take. And what is it with the 2021 YXZ? Well, in my opinion, this car is not a cruiser. This car is not the dirt Cadillac that you might get with a 4-seat Can-Am or a Razor or something like that. This car is aggressive, and it likes to be driven aggressively. If you're coming from a motocross background or a high performance driving background and you like to be in full control of the experience, shifting gears, controlling where those RPMs are at, being able to flick the thing in and stab the throttle and get it to do what you want to do, this is a car worth considering. If you're looking to do anything else pretty much, just bopping around the desert, being super comfy, not a care in the world, there's definitely other models out there that we would recommend to you. That being said, the YXZ, although it has a smaller aftermarket offering than most other models, there are plenty of parts out there available on utvsource.com that you can get to make this thing exactly what you want it to be. Now, in comparison to the non-SS models, the traditional 3-pedal, manual transmission, the SS is much more of a everyman's car than, if not, but still, it's leaps and bounds away from something like an X3 or a Razor. That doesn't mean it's bad though, it's just different. A 5-speed sequential that works just like a freaking WRC car is a next level feeling, paired with a really good exhaust, wheels and tires and proper suspension. This is an experience that you've got to have if you haven't had it yet. If you've got a buddy with a YXZ or whatever, or there's a demo ride day at a dealer near you, do yourself a favor and just get in one and see how you like it. So after everything's all said and done, that kind of brings us to the end of our UTV Source Break-In Period review on the 2021 Yamaha YXZ1000R SS SE. We've had an absolute blast with this car. It's definitely unique. It's definitely for a unique UTV rider, but it is a blast. It's an absolute blast. We don't have too many bad things to say about it. We can't wait to see if Yamaha comes out with a model that maybe has some trailing arm rear end, or some suspension improvements or things like that to kind of keep up with everybody else that's been moving forward. And like most of your other models out there, you can go to utvsource.com and pick out all sorts of aftermarket accessories that will get this car exactly where you want it, whether it's a big turbo, a different exhaust, seats, harnesses, suspension, all that good stuff. So make sure you check out all the other videos on this car. We're super pumped with it. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment below, let us know what you think. As we continue to do these videos, we want to add more information that kind of gives you the answers to the questions you're looking for. So thanks for hanging out in the garage with me today. Thanks for watching all this stuff. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something, or at least had some fun, and we will see you on the next one.